Hey there, boxing fans. Xicana Boxing here. And this Saturday, we have an action packed day of boxing across various promotional companies, various platforms, and various times of the day, honestly. And I love me a Saturday full of boxing. So we're discussing all the action here today. And before I start, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And also, leave me some comments along the way, whether or not you agree with my boxing opinions and predictions. First off, we have a rematch between Joshua Franco and Kazuto Ioka taking place all the way in Tokyo. If you recall, the first match was also in Tokyo, and they fought to a split draw back on New Year's Eve, I believe. And the first fight was a unification match with both of the guys having a belt, but now Joshua Franco is the reigning WBA junior bantamweight champion, and he's the one setting to defend his title against Kazuto Ioka, who's a former 4th Division World Champion, but vacated his belt to give Franco the rematch because he was mandated to defend against Junto Nakatani, right, who's a newly crowned champion. And honestly, after seeing what Junto Nakatani did to Maloney, I really don't blame Kazuto Ioka for saying, no, I'll take my chances against Franco again. I don't blame him. Coming out of RGBA, Franco is known for his relentless fighting style, and he does have a decent ring IQ, and has proven himself to know how to adapt with 2 trilogies in his belt, and, as in a young guy in his career, right? So he does prove to be able to adapt the more he fights his opponents. With Negrete, back in 2019, they had a very close trilogy, but you did see Franco adapt pretty well. And with Maloney in his last fights, we had that kind of controversy in the second fight with the headbutt. But regardless, the third fight, Franco was able to get Maloney out of there, so it didn't really matter. The kid can adapt, right? So regardless of who wins, I do pick Franco to, like I mentioned, adapt and beat the now older Ioka, who may not have the same reflexes he once had, right? So I do feel like Franco's going to come out on top and be one step closer to unifying with this stacked-ass division that we have right now with Junto Nakatani, Fernando Martinez, El Gallo Estrada as champions. But not only that, Chocolatito's still on the mix because even though he's not a champion, he is still wanting all that smoke with the young guys, and we see what he can do. We see that he's still back. He came back on top, and he's still looking smooth and fresh. So I do feel like, regardless of not having a belt, he could definitely get in the mix with those guys in the division. As for where to watch, unfortunately, we're on the same boat as last year. No word of any network or streaming app picking this up from Tokyo. So our best bet is hoping that the RGBA people are going to Facebook Live, Instagram Live this bitch. Let us pray. But if somebody does happen to pick it up, I will notify everybody on Twitter. So go ahead and follow me on there so I can let you know any updates if hopefully a streaming platform is able to pick this fight up. Now over on Showtime, we do have Carlos Adames, who recently got a lot of attention for his knockout stoppage over Montiel, and he will put his WBC interim title on the line against Julian Williams, a seasoned veteran with a nice resume, but who has seen better days, right? Both guys hold a tarnished record, and both guys definitely want to make a statement in this kind of stale division that we have right now. And honestly, Adames is known for his explosive power nowadays, and he has this break you down style, and he's been making waves in the division, especially with the champions kind of not doing much these days. But Williams, he's a former unified super welterweight champion, even though it wasn't for long, honestly. It was very short-lived, but he does bring some of that, former unified champ experience into the ring, so that can make it interesting. And interesting is definitely what we need because with Canelo moving up to super middleweight, Gennady Golovkin dropping his last belt that he had at 160, Bubu Andre moving up to 168 as well, Sergey Derevyanchenko just losing to Munguia, Jacobs moved to 168 as well, and we haven't heard much from him since the Parker fight. So it's we don't have much because our champion, who is Charlo, is kind of like nowhere to be found. So, like the middleweight division needs some spice right now, right? Adding to the mix that Top Rank has been promoting Janet Beck as like the boogeyman of the division, touting his impressive record and knockout power. Like that's fine, but he certainly he definitely has potential. But we have yet to see him face anybody with a pulse worth mentioning. So I just want the middleweight division to get cracking. Fuck it. I know Munguia dug Janet Beck according to them. We have Charlo, who is supposedly now coming out to maybe face Canelo. We don't know what's happening in the middleweight division, so definitely we need this fight to deliver. Okay? Adonis versus William may have the opportunity to make that statement and kind of give us a breath of new life into the middleweight division. And the winner would only, either stay with the WBC interim or if it's Williams, gain that. But also that puts you to be, the runner-up for the WBC whenever Charlo wants to come out of retirement. However, I am a bit more intrigued about the co-main event, which is like the battle of the mids who've seen better days. And they've been like Twitter fingering each other in the past, right? We have Lubin and Luis Arias, right? Like, battle the mids, but it's entertaining. Not all guys are going to be super skilled champions, right? Like, we're going to have these badass fights with legit contenders, right? Even after a couple defeats, Lubin's been on a mission to prove himself as still a top contender division. And even though he lost against the Terra Inferno, Sebastian Fundora, not that long ago, he did hurt Fundora, and he dropped him. Before Fundora went to lose in devastating fashion to Brian Mendoza, right? But Lubin gave Fundora that work, right? He kind of like exposed, I hate the word exposed, but he exposed his flaws, right? His defensive flaws. Arias, however, he's eager to bounce back from recent setbacks and reestablish his presence in the division by ruining Lubin's plans. I will say I got Lubin based just on skill and resume, and he does have a little bit more pop in his punches, in my opinion. But I wouldn't count Arias out based on heart alone. So my prediction for the co-main event is Lubin by stoppage over Luis Arias. And, the super welterweight division is another division that even though, we have Charlo as like the main dude, right? He's the main guy. He's the dude who should be in the pound list. Don't know why he's not. But, all the other guys still make for very fun fights. So this fight is the one that I'm trying to look forward to on the weekend. Now we move over to DAZN, and we have a clash between super middleweight contenders Edgar Berlanga, once with Top Rank, and Jason Quigley, who I'm not sure if he's still with Golden Boy. I think he's not with Golden Boy no more. Maybe he is. You guys let me know in the comments. Edgar Berlanga, a once upon a time, promoted guy as a knockout artist, holds a professional perfect record of 17 wins. All but, they were all by way of knockout up until like the last two, I believe, right? And this is his debut in the Matchroom stable. With Top Rank, when he stopped being with Top Rank, when his contract was up, he moved over to Matchroom. Now, this could be a significant move in his career because, whether he has a stellar performance or not, to be honest, regardless, just being on his own puts him in contention for a shot at Canelo Alvarez, who clearly wants nothing to do with David Benavidez for some reason. Berlanga is known for his, explosive power and, kind of crazy out of the ring rants that he goes on, but he made more buzz missing his last fights as knockouts than he did when he was knocking motherfuckers out, right? Because he was being promoted. And I do think that Top Rank did do him a disservice there by, super pushing him as a knockout artist type of guy when he hadn't faced, anybody with a pulse or anybody who was actually going to make things competitive, because you're supposed to knock out every guy you fight in your first 10 fights, I believe, right? So with him doing that, they're promoting him that way. Once he started looking regular against the likes of, what's that guy's name? Steve Rolls. Then you're like, oh man, I really should have not done that, right? But the work is done. And, as soon as his fights went the distance, we noticed that it was because the competition had tightened a little bit, right? Now, Jason Quigley, on the other hand, he's decently skilled, and he's like, he's a decently experienced Irish boxer who has like ambitions for climbing the super middleweight ladder since when he was back in middleweight, he got knocked out, right? He did not, I think even Boo Boo Andre knocked this guy out. So simply, I think unfortunately, he's simply there as like a sacrificial lamb to welcome Berlanga into like the Matchroom stable and get him back into like that knockout artist, mentality maybe, or like the hype. Because if Quigley was stopped by Boo Boo Andre, I don't think I'd give him much chance against Berlanga. Quig is one of those guys that he's just he's a good boxer. Like, he's good. He's got his skills, but he doesn't do anything amazingly well. He's a good all around boxer, but there's not one thing that you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, that guy, like, look at him, he's kicking ass or nothing. Just very mid, very. So I do feel like Berlanga's going to knock this guy out, and oh my god, if he doesn't, no se las va a acabar en Twitter. No se las va a acabar. And it's not going to look good for Matchroom, who's already getting criticized for not having the best lineup of shows for the upcoming months. And then when it's supposed to be a knockout and it doesn't go into a knockout, that's going to be, causing some problems. But those are my predictions. First, I got Franco by decision. I do have Adames by stoppage against Williams. I have Lubin by stoppage against Arias. And I do have Berlanga by knockout, stoppage, whatever, against Quigley. So, what are you doing? Let me know if you agree or disagree with my picks and what fight you're looking forward to the most. So, until next time, keep your gloves up and your spirits high. Stay tuned for more updates in the boxing world, and I'll see you guys ringside.